Welcome to another special event here on the Main Event Broadcasting Network. I'm Timmy McCormack, Director of Athletic Communications here at Piedmont College. Today, we're taking a look at the 2014 men's soccer season coming up with head coach Jimmy Stevens. Coach Stevens, thanks for joining us here today on the Main Event Broadcast Network. We appreciate you taking a few moments here away from the practice field as you guys ready for the 2014 season. We appreciate you joining us.
No problem.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, of course, we're going to talk about the newcomers because you have a ton of them coming in. It really is freshmen and transfers and things like that. But let's talk about one of the returners, most notably on your coaching staff, a second-year assistant now in Shane McKay. Recently featured on PiedmontLions.com for his work here in the States after being featured in a hometown newspaper back where he's from, back in England. Talk a little bit about how important he's been on your staff so far and how much he's done for your coaching staff as well as going into his second season.
He's been very important to our staff, mostly because he's gorgeous.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
The parents seem to like that, but he's also helped us kind of open our recruiting to other places in the U.S.
Right.
We have the kid Bruce that came
right,
from England, and he was instrumental in doing that. He does a lot of the little things where he'll text or call me and say, hey, should I do this? And I'll say, well, I never thought of that. Yeah, it's a great idea. Go ahead and do it.
Right.
So he's been amazing for us these last couple of years.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. And of course, you mentioned Bruce Kitchen, the player from the UK, so you kind of see that international connection a little bit too. Mm-hmm. One other player on your roster that's coming in this year, Matt Metzger,
right,
who actually was an international student last spring for the men's tennis team. What do you know? He can play some ball on the tennis or on the soccer field as well.
Yeah, he kind of sandbagged us. He said he's a much better tennis player than he's a soccer player,
right,
but I'm not sure about that, so we'll see. But he comes from a family where his dad coaches one of the national teams at an age group, and his brother played. So it was a nice surprise that we were able to kind of borrow him from Shane because he's here for Tennis First, and it was nice for Shane Wood to help us out. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, Matt's been a pretty good player for you so far in preseason. He really looks like he has a good understanding of the game, so it's been pretty impressive to see that international connection show up a little bit too, and of course Shane being a very important piece of that connection as well. Now, for all your newcomers we're going to talk about here, of course, in just a few seconds, we talked about a few already, but let's talk about some of the returners. Most notably, you have Vincent Slim Thomas back for another season, second in the conference last year in goals, I believe, with 9. You kind of have a tendency to be able to mentor some of the better goal scorers. We've seen that before with some of the players you've had leading the nation in scoring and as well as in total points too. Talk a little bit about how important he's going to be to your upcoming season and how nice it is to get him back.
It's nice to have him back. The nice thing for us is he was our leading goal scorer. The tough thing he's had to adjust to is last year he was pretty much our only goal scorer.
Yeah, that's true.
And so he's having to make adjustments where we've got 3 or 4 other kids that can help him out, so he doesn't have to take the team kind of on his back from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, that's very true. And of course, you return your goalkeeper, now a 2-year starter, coming in as a junior, Kenneth Hearn. He's going to be back for you. That's a big key piece. One of those pieces, too, back probably playing as a center back spot, depending on where he falls, is Chris Keller. Chris Keller spent a little bit of time last season as his freshman year, came in, did a really good job, suffered some injuries, was out for a good bit of the year, but now he's back and healthy and ready for a sophomore year. How important is he going to be to your upcoming season?
It's pretty important. I mean, we talked with him a lot about communicating because he sees the field real well, and you know, we're really excited about it. He's a great kid. He does well in the classroom.
Right.
You know, we were fortunate to get him, and the way we got him was kind of interesting. Another story.
Right.
Totally. But I think he's going to play a big part as long as he can stay healthy.
Okay.
And that seems to kind of was his Achilles heel last year. He was a very good player, but nagging injuries hurt him last year.
Yeah, the same thing we talked about. You just kind of more nagging injuries than anything else. Nothing really major. Yeah, just little nagging injuries gone through the year. So some of the returners, of course, we mentioned. Now you got 15 new faces for this year. That's a lot of new kids. Probably one of the bigger incoming classes you've had in the last couple of years for sure. And a lot of that we talked about, of course, with Shane McKay stepping onto staff. You know, having that consistency and being able to bring in the players. But they really look like they're going to have quite an impact on your team. So far, having a look at. Talk a little bit about the freshman incoming class and who's really kind of stood out to you, I guess, really in that first couple of days of preseason.
Well, I mean, we had to do that. We won 6-7 games last year. So we were kind of in a situation where we were trying to bring in kids that contribute right away. And, you know, from an offensive standpoint, we brought in Chase Kane.
Right.
You know, Kofi Bates.
Yeah.
You know, Chase comes to us from, I think he's the 3rd kid we've had from Oconee High School.
Okay.
His buddy, Chris Bible, is another one from Oconee High School. So we've been real fortunate to get kids from there. Notably Bradley Thomas.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, from an offensive standpoint, Chase Kane is a guy that comes in, we expect him to score goals right away.
Right.
He doesn't communicate a whole lot. He's an art student, so he's, you know, kind of out there sometimes.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
But I won't say we're counting on him, but I think he's someone that if he progresses like he has been through preseason, will be a big player for us.
Yeah, and you've seen your share of really good goal scorers come through your program. Of course, we talk about Drew Griffin,
Right.
Jorge Perdilla, Vincent Slim Thomas has been in that category as well. How tough is it for a freshman to step in and score goals like that right away? Is there something that kind of holds them back? That they hit we talk about the 2-week wall
Right.
with some of the youngsters kind of thing?
It's one of those, I don't know what it is. I mean, I know Vincent went through it as well. I mean, when he came in, I don't think he started the first 3 or 4 games.
Right.
And then I remember we were at Greensboro and we put him in the game, and all of a sudden it was just like he got it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just an adjustment period from high school or club to playing against bigger, stronger, faster kids.
Right.
But once he figures that out and he's pretty close to it, I think he's going to be good for us.
Yeah, well, you're going to need him right away. You
Yes.
open up against Marietta College
Yes, we
on the
do.
road, 2 games up in Ohio.
Right.
Of course, the head coach of that program, a man you know well, Joe Bergen,
Yep.
former Agnes Scott coach from back in your days when you coached on the women's side as well. So, a little bit of a matchup there. And odd enough, you meshed up against the women's side back then. Now you match it up on the men's side.
Right.
So
That's really funny.
it's kind of an interesting story and a
Right.
good little storyline we've seen. Joe, of course, we know is a real good
Right.
guy up there at Marietta, taking good care of you as far as you going up to that tournament. Talk about, number one, how tough it's going to be to play his team in that opening game. And then, how much that connection kind of play in there as far as a coaching connection in that opener?
Well, it's going to be tough for us because we don't know anything about his
Right,
team.
right.
This is, I think, his second year there. So we're similar in the fact that he's got a ton of freshmen and we have a ton of freshmen.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting in talking with him. Neither one of us really has a clue
Right,
as to what
what
the other
either
team is
has.
going to do because, out of the 11 or so starters I had last year, you will see, I would think, 3 or 4 of those in the beginning and
Right.
the rest will be new kids. So,
Right.
I mean, Joe's a decent guy. Joe'll sandbag you a little bit and tell you that the world's coming to an end
Right.
and this kind of stuff. But the thing I like about this tournament, after looking at some of the, I guess, results from last year with the teams that are at this tournament, Worcester being the other one, and Bethany, I think any one of the teams going up there, if they have a good weekend, can win it.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just going to depend on how those newcomers come into play.
Right.
I am looking forward to it. Joe and I wouldn't say we had a rivalry as coaching
Right.
women, but it's someone that when you go there, you enjoy it because
Right.
you know that it's a game. And,
Yeah.
afterwards we'll go out and hang out a little bit.
Yeah.
And catch up. So, and
Yes.
I've been through Ohio, but I've never been in Ohio.
Right,
so
right.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, I think, for the coaching staff as well, for the
Right.
players too. Usually for the teams down here, of course, at Piedmont, they don't get the chance necessarily to go all the way up to Ohio, so that's a pretty cool trip.
Right, and it's a way for us to get rid of some of the teams we always play.
Right,
We're always
right.
playing the same teams year in, year out, and I thought since I was going to have a new team, maybe
Right.
we'll go up somewhere else. And, I don't think that we've ever played in the history of Piedmont, I know in the NCAA era, we've never played any of these schools.
Right.
So it's a little bit different for us, but it's no different than us traveling to a NC Wesleyan
Right.
or a Methodist or something as far as the travel. It's
Yes.
an hour or so more.
So that's not that much further of a trip.
It's
So
not that big a deal.
Well, let's talk about your home opener.
Okay.
September 13th, Trinity Baptist, an
Yes.
afternoon game that we're going to air live on the Main Event Broadcasting Network. How exciting is it going to be to get back home after a couple weekends away?
It'll be fun, I think. We played them last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see, just based on us going up for that weekend, and I think we've got a couple of games in between.
Right.
Excited about it. I know the kids are excited about it. One of the things I'm most excited about is that we've been able to move our fans inside the fence.
Right, of course, yeah,
Which is
Walker
huge
Athletic
for
Complex.
us.
Yeah.
And so now we can have a little bit more fan presence instead of them being so far away.
Right.
Very excited about that. And also excited about being on the side where we're normally used to.
Right.
In the last 4 or 5 years, we've not been there.
Right.
So I'm pretty excited about that, and that'll be neat when the alums come back, because that's always their big complaint, is having to
Right.
look through the fence. So-
Right.
But as far as the team, I don't know anything about them. They're a team that could be good, they could be bad. I'll
Yep.
get a little bit of a scouting report from Toccoa Falls because they played them, I think, the night before.
Yeah.
But other than that, it should be a fun game.
Yeah, and last year, of course, you played them, I think, in a string of where you played 3 games back to back to back as well.
Yeah, that was
kind of an odd
that was-
scheduling.
That was a bit of a mistake.
The boys were tired,
Well,
but
yeah.
but they get them on a home opener now, it's
Right.
September 13th, and it'll be our first broadcast for you guys on the Main Event Broadcast Network.
Excellent.
Looking forward to it.
Me
Coach,
too.
looking forward to seeing you out there for the 2014 season.
Me too.
All right, thanks for stepping in for us. That's a wrap here on the Main Event Broadcasting Network. Make sure you tune in for the home opener against Trinity Baptist on September 13th for the men's soccer team here in the 2014 season. They open on August 30th, this coming Saturday, against Marietta College with a 3 p.m. kickoff.